Not since the movie Phone Booth, if you remember that, the Colin Farrell movie.
Yeah.
Not since Phone Booth was set to be released amidst the Beltway sniper attacks in Washington, D.C., or perhaps when the film Neighborhood Watch, which was eventually renamed The Watch, released their poster of a bullet hole ridden teaser poster of a movie called Neighborhood Watch in the wake of the Trayvon Martin shooting death, has a particular film graced theaters at such an inopportune time.
Yeah.
Death Wish was originally supposed to come out over Thanksgiving. It absolutely would have been better suited to come out over Thanksgiving. They wanted to delay it because of the Las Vegas shooting that had taken place a couple weeks prior.
I remember seeing trailers early on, and I was like, what happened to that movie?
And now they delay it to March 2nd, which comes 16 days after the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting in Parkland, Florida.
Yeah, you can never win.
So, of course, some people will be infuriated because of this movie coming to theaters at such a bad time, and others are going to say that this is the perfect time in the midst of intense gun control debate to release a movie about vigilante and the old idea of a good guy with a gun. You want to know what my opinion is? There is never a good time to see a bad movie. That's how I look at it.
That's the thing, man. Like, no matter what, it's a bad movie at the end of the day.
You want to give a plot rundown of Death Wish?
Yeah, sure. So
Go ahead.
Bruce Willis plays Dr. Paul Kersey. Believe it or not, Bruce Willis is a doctor in this movie. And basically, one night while he's working, people break into his house, murder his wife, and put his daughter in a coma. He takes it upon himself to find out which men did it, because the police aren't doing anything other than putting him on hold and not giving any progress whatsoever to the case. He decides to take justice in his own hands, get a gun, and find out who did it, who murdered his family himself.
Amidst the controversy, Eli Roth, who I've defended on a couple occasions just in terms of his films. I don't know how many of you have seen by
I've
Eli.
seen Hostels, and I've seen The Green
Hostel,
Inferno.
Hostel and The Green Inferno you've seen.
And I like both of them.
I've seen the first Hostel, wasn't the biggest fan of it. Second Hostel's awful. I've seen Cabin Fever, which I do like, and Green Inferno, which I like a lot.
Yeah, I like Green Inferno a lot,
That's
too.
a great film. That's underrated.
That's
underrated in my opinion. I don't think that was appreciated like it should have been. But yeah, I do defend Eli Roth on many movies. I think that he does have a place in film. This is his response and reception to Death Wish. He said, and I quote, "I wanted to really make it about family and stick to the central issue of what would you do if this happened to your family. The movie for me is about family and protecting your family, and what do you do when you can't get justice for your family? It's not pro-gun. What I really try to do more than anything else is show how it really is and leave it to the audience to decide." God, the only time you hear the word family more is in a Fast and the Furious movie. Okay?
We family.
You know, that's the only time you hear family more. And the thing is, too, is like, let me say this. Okay, let me say this. And this is why I'm not going to go, we're not going to go political to begin with. This is why. This is what I'm saying, though, is that, you know what? It's I used to harbor the belief, and it's so stupid that I used to think this way, that a release date had no effect on a movie. I used to think a good movie should come out no matter when. It should have no effect on the release date. But obviously, given the current landscape and the culture, it's hard to look at a movie like Death Wish without seeing the parallels, especially when you have a movie like this. If you've noticed, I don't know if you looked at the background details of this movie, a lot of posters in this movie about like gun buybacks and like pro-gun controls. A lot of symbolism in this movie that relates and fuels what's going on today. So even if you're not trying to make it political, it's inevitably political.
It's gonna happen because, I mean, okay, I hate to get political here, but like, look how many shootings happen in our country from time to time. You try releasing a movie like this, it's going to come out at a bad time because of how many shootings happen.
No matter when. And I said, and I even said too, I said it has the creative disadvantage of coming from a country where a shooting occurs every day and mass shootings are more or less to be expected.
Especially in the city of Chicago.
So there is a
where this film takes place.
So there is a massive desensitization to violence that one doesn't experience firsthand. And back when the original Death Wish came out, another vigilante movie like The Exterminator came out, these were movies that like you really didn't see that much. They were almost anarchic in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They had this very, enraged sense of sense of perspective too. I said before in my reviews of those films a couple months ago, I said that the vigilante genre should make a comeback. I really think. I mentioned one of my favorite films of last year was Brawl in Cell Block 99, which is, I believe, absolutely a vigilante movie with Vince Vaughn. I believe that is absolutely a vigilante movie with a lot of the same undertones. It's creative. It's well shot. The whole nine.
People love vigilantes.
I think there is a place for them, but there's not a place for a movie like this that's just a very bare basic retread of what was originally a shocking formula, in my opinion. That's just the way that I see it. General impressions, Joe, on Death Wish. Thoughts?
Going
quibbles?
into this, I don't know how Charles Bronson was in the original film. I don't know how he was like acting wise. I like Charles Bronson a lot, so I don't know how he was in that. But the biggest issue I had with this movie, and what took me out every time, and honestly just bored me to death, was Bruce Willis. Yeah. I think this is like one of the worst performances I've ever seen by him, man. He looks like he is just sleeping through every scene. There are scenes he's supposed to be like, my wife died, and he just acts like he doesn't care, honestly. It's like, okay, I thought your wife died. Do you actually not care? Because you're kind of giving me that impression.
Yeah, if you had a character, at least, even if you found the premise problematic, if you found like somebody in the title role or not the title role, excuse me, the main role, that seemed like he cared, that would be something. That would be a step in the right direction.
You look at something like Taken with Liam Neeson. You believe that he wants to get his daughter back. You actually like see that. He cares about his daughter. You get that within the first 20 minutes. Here, I don't get that at all with Bruce Willis. No. It just seems like he just doesn't care about this movie. He's just phoning it in. And when it comes time to do an emotional scene, he's just like doing like a half, what job?
Yeah, I mean, there's very little effort. Even that shot where he points like the finger gun, you know what I'm talking about?
Which is such a stupid scene.
Yeah, which comes from the original. There was actually it's still corny in the present context, but in the original film, it had some weight. Okay. Just the way Bronson looked when he did it. He had a sinister look. Bruce Willis, you could not get lazier. It looked like the laziest thing, especially to conclude the movie. First off, I think it happens way too quickly. I think it's just a quick scene.
Yeah, it's a terrible way to end the movie. That's your last shot, really? That's a terrible last shot.
Yeah, just to give the idea. And then especially after everything is dropped to begin with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just the way that everything is dropped so quickly. What else do you want to talk about, bring up with this movie? It's set in Chicago, which is different from the original.
That was
set in New
cool
York.
seeing like Wacker Drive and everything. I was like,
which
cool.
they refer to as Wacker Avenue in the opening scene.
Yeah.
Which I don't understand why.
We got to see a cameo from, a station that won't be existing anymore, The Loop.
Yeah, which is so...
God rest in peace.
Isn't that weird how that happened?
It is weird how that happened.
97.9 got bought out yesterday by a Christian network, and The Loop is a big part of this Death Wish movie.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre. You know what I mean? It's very bizarre how that happened.
That's where it comes in, like what Eli Roth was talking about, where he's like, I want to leave it up to the viewer. Throughout the film, in the transitional scenes, basically, you hear broadcasters on the radio talking about, is what Bruce Willis's character doing justified? Is it right for some person to go out there and kill people that are actually committing crimes and everything, taking justice in his own hands? That's all they're really serving the purpose for, honestly. Mm-hmm. And The Loop is like the one that's featured on there heavily.
Yeah, the radio station. Yeah, Matt and Cal Muller in his morning madhouse. You know what I mean? He's on this a lot.
Yeah.
This movie's very Chicago, I will say that. There's Giordano's. It's set in Evanston. You know what I mean? This movie's very Chicago. Love Sosa by Chief Keef, which was I don't care. Not a fan of this movie. Great scene.
That's the ice cream man scene.
The
right?
ice cream man.
That is the best scene in the movie.
Great scene.
The way that scene is shot and play, like the music. Honestly, yeah, it really is probably the best scene in this movie. It was the only scene I was like, all right, maybe the film's going. Nope. All right, we're going back down.